When most people think of science fiction, they conjure up images of laser guns, monsters rampaging around metropolises, or extraterrestrial creatures invading planet Earth. Isaac Asimov had different ideas. The author's hit novel Foundation is unlike any other science fiction work of its time. While other novels were focused on a brave young hero going on adventures through the galaxy, Asimov's 1952 classic takes a much more pragmatic approach to the science fiction genre. Born January 2, 1920, Isaac Asimov grew up in a small rural locale in Soviet Russia for the first few years of his life. When he was 3, his parents took him and his younger sister Manya to the US to try and start a new life. This is where he spent the rest of his childhood, in the heart of New York, Brooklyn. There he taught himself how to read and write, partly through the help of magazines and newspapers that his parents sold from their candy shop. These magazines also developed Asimov's deep love for science fiction. Around the time of World War II, Asimov completed his master's degree in chemistry before being drafted into the U.S. Army in 1945. After 9 months of successful service, he was honorably discharged and returned home to finish his PhD in chemistry. Following that, he worked as a research professor at the Boston University School of Medicine for a few years until he was dismissed from his teaching post. Asimov unfortunately passed away in 1992 due to health complications. He was 72 years old. Isaac Asimov first started writing science fiction when he was 17. His first book, Cosmic Corkscrew, was submitted to Street and Smith Publications, but was rejected because of a myriad of reasons. This did not discourage Asimov. He wrote his second book, Stowaway, which was also rejected due to similar reasons. Finally, on his third attempt, Marooned Off Vesta was published in 1939, and 2 other works, The Weapon Too Dreadful to Use and Trends, quickly followed suit. In 1942, Asimov wrote the first Foundation story, which would later be used as part of the Foundation trilogy: Foundation, Foundation and Empire, and Second Foundation. This video will seek to analyze the first book, Foundation. Published in the 1950s, Foundation was unlike any of the other science fiction works of the time. While the genre during that era was mostly focused on rampaging monsters, popular movies included Godzilla, The Blob, and Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, Asimov's Foundation took a very different approach to the norm, and it shows. Foundation doesn't quite scream science fiction when you first open it. Missing the action scenes, excitement, and tension of common sci-fi novels of the time, the story of Foundation is told almost entirely through dialogue between characters. To truly grasp the concept of what is happening in the outer workings of the galaxy, one has to interpret the words of the universe's politicians and untangle the mess of language so the larger picture could be seen. Focusing more on the political and economic forces that impact the turnings of a galaxy, Foundation succeeded as a science fiction novel in its own right. In addition, unlike other novels which focus on a single hero who goes on a journey across space to save the galaxy, Foundation has no single main protagonist. It is impossible to revolve this entire story around one person. The first book ends thousands of years after it started. If Asimov had tried to focus the book on Harry Seldon, the first major protagonist, the novel would have been only 30 pages long, considering that Seldon died 12,069, hundreds of years before the second chapter even starts. Finally, Foundation went against the very definition of science fiction, even in the author Isaac Asimov's own eyes. In an essay by Asimov, he writes that science fiction is that branch of literature which is concerned with the impact of scientific advance upon human beings. However, Foundation doesn't really focus on how scientific advances such as faster-than-light travel or predicting the future using math have any effect on people. Instead, human nature remains fundamentally the same throughout the novel. The actions and thoughts of characters remain unchanged. Asimov spoke many times on the topic of religion during his life, even going so far as to write a book called Asimov's Guide to the Bible. Despite this, Asimov stayed non-religious because he was, in short, a rationalist and believed only that which reason told him is so. In Foundation, however, Asimov's portrayal of religion is negative and even bears resemblance to modern Christianity. For example, Weenus, a character clearly against religion, calls people who believe in the talk of the prophet Harry Seldon full of foolishness. Throughout his life, Asimov was an outspoken atheist, despite being born into a Jewish family. From what he writes in Foundation, it is clear that his view of religion as a whole is not neutral, but rather negative. The religion of scientism plays a heavy role in the novel, but is mostly used to further political leaders' personal agendas. The founder of this so-called scientism, Mayor Salvor Hardin, often refers to religion as a fluffy flummery used only to get them to accept our science without question. During the rest of the story, characters use a fabricated religion to exercise control over rival planets. To keep other civilizations from gaining access to nuclear power, Mayor Hardin provides access to the technology, but not the knowledge, so that they can handle these tools only empirically. The people of these planets believe in scientism so fanatically that even when a nuclear plant contaminates an entire city, they believe it just to be a divine vengeance. Finally, the idea that religion is used only as a personal tool or weapon is further exemplified when a new mayor is elected years after Hardin's death and decides that the benefits of the religion have long been reaped, and consequently has no reason to be used anymore. Casting away the previous methods of having traders sell their wares by developing priesthoods, Hober Mallow, the new mayor, suggests that creating partnerships based on a sincere friendship through trade would be more beneficial than scientism. It can be clearly seen that, in the eyes of the powerful figures in Foundation, religion is nothing more than a tool to be used to gain some power, then thrown away. In conclusion, although Asimov chose to write Foundation in a different style than other science fiction of its time, the novel still succeeds as both a book about the inner workings of a galaxy and serves as a criticism on religion. Foundation may not have fit society's idea of science fiction, and it may never accomplish that. However, Foundation was able to squeeze its way into many a reader's heart and become a beloved classic amongst the science fiction community. Isaac Asimov truly was a master at his craft.
You're gonna be okay, kid.